If you're a Dungeons and Dragons fan, like at all, you honestly need to be playing this game. Let me put you on to Solasta, Crown of the Magister. It's a turn-based tactical RPG that is just a love letter to fans of Dungeons and Dragons, and with content additions over time, a new expansion that has added a new campaign and several subclasses, and a free update adding multiplayer, the value here is just insane. Being able to play an incredibly faithful D&D video game with 4-player multiplayer and mod support is honestly incredible, and I think really deserves to be talked about so much more. So what's this game all about? Well, you play through a main story, which is essentially like a D&D campaign with 4 characters. Side note, there is DLC that has added an entire other campaign, as well as there being custom campaigns available through mods. Now these 4 characters are going to be created using traditional 5th edition rules from the SRD, but that's the extent that Wizards of the Coast and Tactical Adventures worked together on this game. So the subclasses to the traditional 5th edition classes that we know and love are completely unique creations. It's a dope concept in my opinion. 5th edition classes, but completely unique subclasses. So even if you've played tons of D&D before, there's still plenty new for you to enjoy here. Now officially in the character creator for races, you got human, half-elf, half-orc, dwarf, elf, and halfling, and most of these have sub-races. And for classes, you got cleric, fighter, paladin, ranger, rogue, wizard, and sorcerer. And the DLC Primer Calling adds druid and barbarian, all of these having tons of subclasses. There's also a good amount of backgrounds to pick from as well. But here's the big thing. There's also a huge but easy to install mod called the Solasta Community Expansion that adds so much more to the game as a result of a bunch of the community modders coming together. It adds 2 new races, Gnome and Bulgriff, new classes, Tinkerer, which is essentially Artificer, Warlock, and Witch, all of them having really dope subclasses. It adds 12 new subclasses to the classes that already exist in the game, an insane amount of additional feats and new spells, and that's not even everything. All of it for free. It just goes to show how much the community loves this game and is willing to put into it. Keep in mind for multiplayer though, everyone does have to have the same mods installed, but for me and my friends it was mad simple and has worked perfectly so far. And for DLC, only the host needs to actually have the DLC. As long as they have it, everyone can make characters using the DLC content even if they don't own it. The game has really good 5e combat. Movement, cover, actions, bonus actions, all of it works the same here pretty much as it does in tabletop. So much so that you could jump in probably without playing a tutorial at all if you've played in a D&D campaign before. My wife, who doesn't have much experience with these kinds of video games, but has played D&D with us a bunch already, said as soon as she got into combat, things just clicked. You would still need a tutorial to understand some of the finer mechanics, as far as the video gamey aspects of this game, but in terms of just combat in general, most experienced D&D players would probably be able to do just fine. It's so good and incredibly intuitive that if you have someone who's a gamer but is interested into getting D&D, you could honestly have them start here with this game. Now see, that's a claim I used to reserve for Baldur's Gate 3. Use that game to teach you or someone else D&D 5th edition. And while I do still think it is great for that, and I also think that once Baldur's Gate 3 is out of early access and a full complete game, it is going to be better than Solasta, simply because Larian has more experience, more money, and more staff. As it stands right now, at least for 5e combat rules, Solasta is a better introduction given the current state of both of those games. Alright, so what about non-combat gameplay? Well, when you're not fighting, you're going to be doing other D&D or role-playing stuff, like going on quests, traveling from point to point, and interacting with the travel system. Travel takes days, so obviously there's camping involved, and you have to be careful as random encounters or getting ambushed is a real threat. During rest, your party also engages in other D&D staples such as, working on crafting or enchanting gear, even scavenging for food so they don't gotta use their rations. Your party can choose to travel slower or faster to their destination, the trade-off being lower or higher chances of getting ambushed. I have a friend that always wants to just travel fast, and it's chaotic. Aside from that, there's interacting with items and NPCs via cutscene, which is where the skill checks come into play, you know what I mean? Pretty much all of them that you expect are here. Arcana, when looking at magical structures and ancient magical items, trying to, trick NPCs via persuasion, intimidation, or deception, and even survival checks after defeating enemies to see how much info about them you can gather into your bestiary, making future encounters that you get into with these enemies easier, as now you got more info on how to tackle them. Or it's just cool to look at the bestiary just to see all the little details about the monsters and enemies. When making skill checks, the character who is the best at the skill automatically will be chosen to take a crack at it. So it's really fun to get together with friends to see who wants to specialize in what. Insight works interestingly here as well, in that insight checks, when succeeded, tell you the percentage chance each option has at succeeding. And also for certain skill checks, when you're out exploring, everybody gets a chance to take a crack at it. For example, opening a locked chest. If you're fine passing around those, thieves tools, then everybody gets a chance to take a crack at opening it. Looking at everything I went over, Solasta seems like an impossible game to pass up. I mean, yeah, you could say it's not graphically the most impressive, and some of the models understandably don't look AAA. But what this developer and community have been able to put together for avid fans is honestly incredible. I'd say don't let those things stop you from at least giving this game a try, because you're likely to have a lot of fun. If you like Dungeons & Dragons or tabletop gaming at all, Solasta is a no-brainer.